we do have control over that is the hugest influence on both posture and lameness is toenail length. Toenail length is so incredibly important. If you can hear your dog or cat on the kitchen floor, if you can hear their toenails on the kitchen floor, their nails are not just a little long, they're way too long. We know that animals that live in the wild might have longer nails, but those are animals that are living on compliant surfaces. If they're living on grassland or woodland, then yes, they will get longer nails, but our animals don't live on compliant surfaces. We say, yeah, they live on carpet, but that's a hard surface beneath that carpet, and they do get information from that surface that tells them a false piece of information about where the ground is and what the level of it is. I do have a video or a PowerPoint presentation on this. We're going to zip through it rather quickly, but I think it will bring home a lot of information about this, and we will.
It will. People have so much trouble trimming nails that this is, last time we've had other speakers and everybody always has questions about their animals. So after you go through the nail part, we'll check in on nail questions.
All right. So this is quite an extensive PowerPoint about postural rehabilitation, stance and gait analysis, influence of canine nail trims. But I'm hoping it's the right one, but we'll move along here and see if it will enter. Let's go here. I'm trying, guys. There we go. There we go. Now we got it. All right. So we really want to look at what this video or this program will eventually, we'll go through all of this over time with you guys, but it is so important to realize that posture is one of the major underlying causes of biomechanical and physiologic problems. And it's so important for you guys to start looking at these things, not looking for a diagnosis, but just observing what's going on. How does your animal walk? So the priorities of your dog or cat's nervous system are, number one, to protect the central nervous system, minimizing tension and torque on their spinal cord, and to be able to move fluidly and with poise so that when they hit the ground, they don't jar their nervous system, because things fire funny when that happens. They also want to keep the base of their heart still so that they don't mess up the electrical function or the nervous system function around their heart. Mm-hmm. So this is those are the two things they're trying to minimize jarring of their spinal cord and their brain brainstem. And also that's why the center of mass of the body is at the base of the heart. And they rotate around their center of mass. They move to try, when they run, they try to keep that still. Everything else moves, but the base of the heart stays still. And so they can keep their normal electrical function of their heart. So when you get a really goofy moving dog, he's not helping his heart any more than he's helping his joints when he's uncoordinated or having a problem getting down the road in a effective way. So the next priority after taking care of the central nervous system and the base of the heart are to maintain their balance, trying to make sure that the central nervous system is staying upright. It's trying to avoid an unpleasant meeting with the ground. So that's the second thing. You're walking along and you trip on something and you're carrying something, you drop what you're carrying, toss the tray of glasses away and put your hands out to help keep your face from having an unceremonious meeting with the floor. So the dog is going to do the same thing. The next thing that the animal has to respond to are outside influences other than gravity. Do essential things: food, water, sex, territory, aggression, whatever. That's number 3. That's down the road from keeping your balance. And the fourth thing, believe it or not, way down the list from that is responding to pain. The majority of us think that, anytime an animal has an issue with a lameness or something that it's responding to pain. It may not be. It may not be. And animals will run with pain. They will work with pain if they can have a central nervous system, maintain their balance, and be able to take care of themselves in other ways. The fifth thing is a threat of pain. And the sixth thing is do it because I asked you. So if you're having a training issue, we have to, again, we need to take away this idea that animals are difficult when if they have pain, they're not going to be as apt to do what we ask them to, although many times they will. If they have fear reactions, threats from the outside that are overwhelming to them, they can also be emotional threats on the inside. They can't necessarily respond. And if they can't keep their balance, they cannot respond. If they don't have a brain, they can't keep their balance. So we can understand that so many things that we consider to be training problems are really not. And if you get rid of some of these other priorities, these higher priorities as problems, it can be really a big difference. So we talk about skull, dentition, upper cervicals, all of these things, as I just said. If you have a crooked skull or a crooked bite, you're going to see that distortion everywhere in many fractals of the body. And these trapezoidal distortions will be demonstrated in stance or weight bearing and tail carriage and toenail length and wear on the pads. So they'll show up in gating patterns too. So we all have to worry about if we are running through space, whether we're in an automobile or a plane or a boat, we have to worry about these things of pitch, tilt on a diagonal, roll, tendency to lean or drift. You've seen a dog that has an inner ear problem, kind of roll, all right? Or yaw, crabbing, carrying the hind end, to one side or another. And these are all things anybody moving through space has to deal with, whether they are a living creature or an airplane. And these are all managed by an autopilot system in the brain, and the brainstem, the TMJ, and the feet, and all those sensors. We have gating patterns. And if we have animals that get stuck in one of these gating patterns that is, in the spinal curvature, or a gating pattern like a pace pattern with a wobbly dog, or an animal that always stands with one foot forward and one foot back, or that bunny hops. So we have these patterns of lateral bend, perceived threat or injury that's been there a long time. Pace pattern, lack of central integration, many times seen in like dogs with cervical discs. Contralateral patterns, lameness that affects feeding or drinking postures and become really set in the program. And the back to front pattern, like a bunny hopping dog that has had a thoracolumbar disc. So these are ways we can watch our dogs and understand where their problems might be just by watching them move. So all movement's patterned, and all movement is designed to support dogs against gravity. And you see this dog has got a beautiful planted stick straight tree leg supporting him as he runs down the beach. And he is obviously a great athlete. Notice the things that are going on though. His eyes are perfectly level in space. And he is able to judge a lot of things through this very beautifully maintained gait and gating pattern that is correct. And if we could imagine him continuing that stride, we would see the base of his heart staying very still. So toenail carry, it is hugely important. When you think about it, the body can be a perfect body with a perfect brainstem, everything wonderful, and then his nails are long. Well, what does he think? He thinks he's standing on a hill, so he leans up the hill. He's not standing on a hill, so he falls on his face, so he brings his hind legs forward and straightens them, and that's every single lameness in that posture that I'm called upon as veterinarian to treat can be caused by that alteration in posture from having your toenails too long. So the toenails are critical. They tell him about the interface with gravity, the ground surface. And he gets false information from his long toenails if the toenails are long. So they altered his perception of the orientation of the ground surface, whether it's standing or moving. And this is what I just said to you. If you can hear him on the kitchen floor, they don't touch. When it's standing still, they're still too long. Those are a lot of toenails we see in the world. And we can see, even without seeing the whole dog here, we can see that, go back, sorry. We can see that dog is standing goat on a rock. We see him with his front legs back, a lot of strain on his wrists. His poor little fingers are all extended, and his hind legs are sorry about that, it's advancing by itself. His hind toes are way far forward. We call that goat on a rock, or a goat standing on a little tiny rock at the top of a mountain like this. And goat on a rock posture creates so many lamenesses. So it is almost all of the common lamenesses that we see. And just cutting a dog's nails, and we prove this every day in our office. Many times we'll cut the nails first and see what's left of the lameness. And it's remarkable how many lamenesses improve, or ways of going improve after this. So here we have very typical bunches of stuff that happen. This dog is standing reasonably vertically, but it actually is not, because you can see the amount of strain on its carpus here. How would we look at some of these asymmetrical roping, and the shoulders suggest compression? He's holding his little neck back. He has very long toenails, and he is standing goat on a rock sufficiently to be putting his hind legs forward. He's got a mild kyphosis instead of a straight back. He's got a lot of tension in his tensor fascia lata here to try to hold himself in this pitch to the rear that he's got. He's chronically straightened, hyperextended his stifles, which lends itself to the terrible triad of O'Donoghue, which is lateral collateral ligament tear, patellar luxation, and cranial cruciate tear, which all of us know that those are the most common surgeries that dogs have. So we really want to make sure that we understand how this posture, just this simple posture, is causing those things. So we have very long toenails that probably created the whole problem. And indeed, we see many dogs where you correct the toenails, all of a sudden it stands up like a show dog, goes into stack, and starts extending its legs more and more into stack. This is a dog that lives on a non-compliant surface. He runs around in a barn all day long, and look at how short his nails are. And let me tell you, he looks like a show dog when he stops. Stands up perfectly straight and square. But that's the only dog that, without proper toenail trimming, only reason this nail is longer is that this dog had ruptured its flexor tendon, and that nail sticks out and sticks up a little bit more. So it's long and pointy, but it doesn't curl either. So anyway, but this is very evident of that's how long toenails, if you want a dog to move like a show dog, the difference between your beautifully purebred dog, maybe not a show dog, and the show dogs that are winning at Westminster may just be nothing more than the ones at Westminster have very short nails. Show nails are pretty darn short to create this beautiful extended leg, the reach of an extension, and the drive from behind. So well-conformed, coordinated dogs stack naturally if they have short nails. Stacking is a normal, neutral posture. It's a position of poise, so they can flick their toes and go forward. They can extend their legs out in front of them and not act like they're trying to put their feet down really fast to keep their face from hitting the floor. So these are absolutely a necessity. Short nails for all those things. So that's a stacked dog. Whoops. And we see the front forearms are vertical. The dog is standing on a slight uphill grade, so he's actually leaning forward up the hill, but his hocks to the ground are perpendicular, and his back is straight and flat. And so these are, now he's kind of an exaggeration of dog, indeed, but that is a perfect example of a dog whose legs are perpendicular to the center of the earth, which is in a proper response to gravity. That's why the uprights in your house are vertical, because it takes a whole lot less scaffolding to hold up a vertical pillar than it does a cantilevered one. If the dog does not have a straight leg, he's working really hard to stay upright against gravity. So the basic principles of nail care are really simple. She was saying that people have a lot of issues about how do we get this done. Nails can be trimmed on the top a lot till you just get down to being able to see the quick, and then you sharpen the pencil around the quick so that you take the support away from it, and the quick will recede. The quick does not maintain its blood supply if it does not have stable support. So you expose it without making it bleed just a little bit, and whatever's sticking out will dry up, get hard, and the blood supply will retreat. And over time, you can create short show nails. We do initially.
Dr. Judith, this
Yep.
is so important. I'm not sure I've heard anybody say this. Trimming from the top
Yes.
of the nail. Most people trim from the edge, from
And
the end.
yeah.
So trimming from the top and the sides is makes total sense. But what about cats with that?
In cats, you just simply, because you can many times see the quick in cats, you still want to do that. You want to clip not just the tip. You can shorten cat nails by simply clipping along the top edge of and clip backwards like this. Clip at a 45-degree angle. You can see the quick and clip it back like that. Take out the ridge pole of that. If you take out the ridge pole or the very thick portion, remember their fingernails are on the tops of their fingers just like ours are. So the thickness is on the top. So you do like this at 45 degrees until you see the quick, which looks just like that, just a little, just a little moon. It just looks exactly like my nail does. Let's imagine that my nail is the quick. So I trim on the top at 45 until I see that, and then I trim around that. The quick is right on the bottom of the dog's finger, on the fingernail, and these two corners, as they curve around, we have to get those off. But if you clip a dog's nail straight back, put the whole nail in the clipper and smash it together, they don't like it because you're pinching and pushing and squeezing their fingertip. I never put the whole nail in the clipper. I only clip the top off and clip the sides off. Clip the top off, clip the sides off. You can do a lovely pedicure without a Dremel, but it's much easier to do it with the Dremel once you've done this. I only take the excess off with the parrot mouth thin. I use the tiniest little mini clip on a Great Dane. I don't use a big clipper, even on a big nail. So this is the way that we do this. I was taught this, Christina, by our illustrious, super smart clinician who was both board certified in cardiology and in dermatology and in neurology. What was his name? Can't remember it right. But he was also
Michael Lorenz.
Oh, yes, Michael Lorenz.
Michael Lorenz.
Brilliant man. And I thought every veterinarian in the world learned how to clip nails like I was taught.
Nope.
He taught us that. Why? Because he was, in addition to being triple certified, he was also a very fine dog breeder and a show handler. And his dogs moved like $1 million. So anyway, nails must be trimmed weekly to shorten neglected, very long quicks. To maintain it every 2 weeks. You have to do something about your nails every 2 weeks or they start driving you crazy. So that is an obviously overgrown nail. There is the quick. Can you see my pointer on my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay, there is the end of the quick. But if you try to put that whole nail in the clipper and chop it off right to there, that dog's going to be screeching because you're squeezing his nail in his fingertip inside that nail. So we would just take the tip off, take the top off, take the side off, go back and take some more off the top. But that notch actually right there represents where the quick ends. And we can go to there, but we don't need to go there in one swell swoop, and we don't need to be squeezing the dog's fingertip when we do it. So this is what I'm talking about. This notch here on the bottom represents sort of the end of the quick, but we will trim at this angle at 45. I don't always do that. My trims with the clipper are going to be like this and like that. And then this last little bit would be done with the Dremel. But that's something that I would like for everybody to realize. Take the top off, then take the sides off, never put the whole nail in the clipper. So that is a dog who's had bad fungusy nails. He's still got fungus in here. He's had such bad fungusy nails that you see there are 2 slips of quick coming out there. The fungus beat that back, but he also has broken those nails because they were too long. But that is the very close, done with a nail clipper angle of the trim that we do. But it doesn't look quite that dramatic when it's done with a Dremel. So small clippers, styptic powder if you need it. I probably quick the dog once a week or once, I have blood colored rugs, oriental rugs. So, but anyway, no, they don't mind. We are anti that meme of dogs hating the vets because they get their nails trimmed. Dogs run into my office. They jump into the chair to get done. They are really happy with the way that we do nails. We make it a party. And we do not buy into the meme of dogs hating the vets because of this. We have several different types of grinders that we can use. Gentle Paws by Oster, Petit Paws, Pedicure. Those are really kind of not very strong ones. And we also use now mostly a small doggy Dremel. I don't like the new Dremel design because you can't set it down on its end. When we want to use the school scissors for blunt tips, those are for cutting off the little hoof feet, and taking the fur between the pads shorter. And again, if we need a muzzle, I probably muzzle 1 in 100 dogs to do nails. And that's and eventually we end up with no muzzles because they don't need them, because we don't threaten them. And I never hold or touch a dog any harder than I would hold a baby bird. I mean, literally, big dogs, you don't smash and hold their fingers. Nobody likes a bone-crushing handshake, and dogs don't like having their hands held tightly when you are trimming them. You hold them and restrain them appropriately with towels or whatever, and they will just sit there. And we teach them that when they extend their paws and are relaxed, then I stop. And eventually you'll see them, oh, here, see, I'm extending. I'm going to make you stop. I'm going to make you stop. So they learn that, and they get crackers when we do this as well. So we like to have dogs come in hungry, so they will, want to eat. And we just have such a good time training them to be still. And rather than being burritoed or being held by someone gently rather than making this learned helplessness, we actually are putting the dog in control, because the dog can actually control our actions by his good behavior. And that's super important. And that's why they get so enthusiastic about it, is because animals would rather have control than comfort. They would rather have control than comfort. So this is an important thing. Very easy, minimal restraint. We spend a lot of time educating clients with how to hold them, and it can oftentimes make it so the owner can do it at home. Veterinarians hate doing nail trims. Many of them know how to do them correctly. And therefore, when they refuse to do them, or technicians don't know how to do them, or we don't have enough help in an office to do it, dogs' toenails get neglected. And that is a global welfare issue. So this is a really important thing. We use what we call box restraint, which is not to physically hold or actively hold animals, but to put them in a box of arms and legs by the holder in such a way that they don't feel like they need to get away. They can lean if they need to. But restraint can be absolutely minimal. This is beginning, let me see if there's more in here, box restraint. Physical barriers is necessary and effective way to create a quiet, relaxed animal that requires no forceful restraint. It's not active or restricting. Just a box wrench does the exact thing. It doesn't squeeze a nut or bolt. It's just the right size to not let the object turn in the wrench. And that's the very simplest way to understand it's not active. Animals understand that if they make themselves uncomfortable in that situation, that jam themselves up against a corner or something, that they're doing it. We're not doing anything to them. If they want to get crammed into a corner or in a weird position, that's their problem. And when they realize that the second that they change that we release or relax, that they're just fine about it. And they learn very quickly to stay still. So we do reduce the size of the box if they can spin around in it, obviously, but they realize that struggling is not helpful because they limit their freedom by struggling. And that we always release the box ourselves so that the patient doesn't break out of the box. So we always want to make sure that the dog can't get out of its collar if somebody's using a hand on a collar. But there are so few struggles in my office. They usually learn so quickly, but in the first 30 seconds that, this is a happy thing. So, and we also use constructional aggression training or CAT training. If you guys have talked about this in your programs previously, a dog offers neutral, relaxing behavior in the process. One relaxes, not proceeding, allowing them to get calm again. And that he can control a situation by offering one of these neutral behaviors. And eventually they're relaxing, and it's self-rewarding, and they you can start back again with the briefest of hesitation. Oftentimes, people think that my hesitating because the dog's done a good thing is just a conversational pause, because I'm usually talking to the owner or the dog while I'm doing it. So again, the dog is learning with every move of the nail trim how to behave and how he can receive relaxation and how he gets a lot of internal praise from us. And of course, we love everybody to pieces. They're the best dog, the most perfect dog in the world when they're in my office. No more perfect dog than the one that's in my office. So we have lots of different positions. Animal can be standing. The operators, I sit in my wing chair with box restraint, with the one person sort of in the front of the dog and feeding it crackers. And the dog can also sit in a chair, sitting up next to me. It can be done standing, secured to a wall with multiple body sections with a leaf half hitch. If it's an aggressive dog, it learns very quickly. You're not going to go anywhere. Animals sitting in a corner, and just with a tie ring on the wall, operator on the floor, and in lateral recumbency with box restraint, with just the head down and underside leg raised. And that's all that it takes. Everything done in my office is really quiet. And I want everybody to realize it is possible. I have a wonderful technician who has a rescue for unrescuable, nasty dogs. And in 2 months living in her household, she has to lock them in the bathroom, because when she starts to do nails, everybody is jumping up to get their nails done, getting on the bed to get their nails done. So it is possible to train even the worst nail trim to liking it. And since it has to happen every 2 weeks for the rest of their lives, it's a good idea. So one of the other things, animals globalize fears on a sensory specific basis, not a concept specific basis. People do. Don't assume that they will not like having their nails done if you quick them once. They will just be a bit touchy about that nail only, and they can get over that. We become the sensory specific cues for them to dislike trimming through our discomfort of doing it and our assumptions that they're going to hate it. Don't die for being quick. They're not a bird. Feed and praise, give them liverwurst. When you quick them, they'll say, hey, can you quick me again, please? They are very easily trained to not mind it at all. And so I just want you to realize 9 times out of 10, the global fear that dogs may have of this does not come from the procedure or the restraint. It comes from the owner. And we have to be very careful about that. We have to learn to be neutral. Everything that happens, even a nail being quicked, is a neutral occurrence. And all we have to do to change it from a negative to a positive is think something different about it. Think that it represents liverwurst, or think that, it's a neutral thing, because we only have control over our own feelings at that moment of when we think a thought. After that, no holds barred. We don't have any control over anything that happens after that. We only have control over our thoughts. Our feelings flow naturally from those thoughts. So it says, control your feelings. Good luck. You can't do that. You can only control a thought. So this is something that I will send you all. It's way too hard to do this, because we need to talk about some other concepts, but I will send this to you. But this is the usual procedure for doing nails. And it is some good coaching material for you to use. Again, watch the changes in gait and stance with every animal. Every animal can be dealt with effectively using these techniques, usually with minor assistance. It does not take 2 people most of the time. It is quality time with our animals. And everyone can be taught to do this. And everyone appreciates it, because it ultimately is one of the most profound changes that you can make in your animal. It is absolutely, if I had, other than, they cannot even appreciate good food and nutrition without having their nails done. My good late friend at ABC, Advanced Biological Concepts, Jim, used to have to zero his horse herd for proper foot trims and dentistry before he could test his foods and nutritional supplements.
What about the taking the dew claws off? Sue wanted to know.
For goodness sake, people, stop that mutilation. I hate to be, don't tell me I'm a little upset. It actually interferes with the development of the central cortex. Animals use their dew claws. Dogs hold sticks with them. They hold their food with them. And when they have flipper feet, they do not develop as much of a cerebral cortex. And domesticated dogs have 20% less cortex than their wild counterparts of the same size. We've bred out of them a boatload of brains so that they'll do certain things for us. So please don't take something that helps this. Small muscle coordination is developed. I mean, that's why we have such big brains, is we have opposable thumbs. Leave them their thumbs, please. Leave them their thumbs. If they had been such a detriment to hunting animals, and wild animals or hunting animals, then God would have taken them off. Evolution would have taken them off millions. But they have
good point.
They have great use. And some breeds like Newfies and Great Pyrenees, they're prided on the fact they got extra toes behind. Well, if they actually have bones in them and they're really strong ones, guess what? They've actually got more brains. And we know that those guardian dogs have lots of brains.
And does that apply to polydactyl cats, and anything different about nails with polydactyl cats?
Polydactyl cats, you've got to be so careful they don't have some extra fingers hiding in between extra fingers. And they can be incredibly painful if they grow out and curl under. So it's very important to teach cats to allow you to do their nails. My cats lie on their backs and let me do their nails because they get a lot of treats, or they get something that is a level 4 treat for them. One of them, all I have to do is promise that I'm going to brush him after I do his nails. He'd put up with anything. The other one, he's got to have some caviar or something like that. But
Sid asked a really great question. How often do you replace, or how often should you be replacing clippers and scissors for sharpness?
Whenever they get dull, it's not worth trying to sharpen them. And you can get very nice little mini clips. They're called mini clips, and they're many different color handles and stuff. But the major thing is that it has to be a parrot mouth, not a guillotine clipper. No Hart's Mountain clippers with a single blade. You must use a proper parrot mouth clipper. And is caviar okay for? Usually, I'm talking about canine caviar, or some really wonderful regular caviar. I think a little bit too expensive even for me. I don't because it's too expensive for me. But it is.
That's great.